At some point in your life, you became convinced that there was a you, a substantial, indisputable self moving through time, making decisions and seeing reality from a fixed place. But if you pause and genuinely analyze it, you'll find something peculiar, the you that you think you are. Where is it? For millennia, intellectuals, mystics, and scientists have searched for an explanation. The old Zen masters would question their students. Show me the self. Where does it begin? Where does it end? The students would struggle, unable to pinpoint. It, not in the mind, not in the body, not anywhere. And yet, something was still aware, watching, listening, experiencing. Fast forward to today, and neuroscientists are running into the same difficulty. They scan the brain, expecting to locate a central command center, a CEO of awareness, a single I pulling the strings. But there's nothing there, just billions of neurons firing, a constant stream of electrical impulses, thoughts arriving, memories flashing, emotions rising and falling like waves, no one controlling it. And yet, there's still the feeling of being someone, a continual story that asserts, "This is me." But what if that's just another thought? Look attentively, and you'll find that the self isn't a thing. It's an activity, a process continually reconstructing itself moment by moment. A story given so persuasively that you never thought to question it. The philosopher David Hume observed this centuries ago. He learned that when he looked for a fixed self, all he found was a collection of thoughts, perceptions, and sensations, always altering, never static. But here's when things become very fascinating. If the self is only a story, a moment-to-moment illusion, then who is the one watching it all happen? Who hears the voice in your head? Who notices the ideas, the emotions? This is where language fails us because whatever it is, it's not an object, not a person, not even something that can be comprehended or defined. It is simply awareness itself, silent, infinite, always present. Ancient spiritual traditions called it the witness. Scientists describe it as the field of consciousness. But no matter what you call it, the realization is the same. The person you believed you were is only a role in a dream, a story occurring within something much vaster. And the instant you see it clearly, everything alters. The things you worried about so much, the worries, the insecurities, the drive to show something, they lose their grasp, because the one who was holding on to them was never real to begin with. This doesn't imply life stops happening. The body still moves, thoughts still occur, emotions still come and go, but suddenly there's a gap between you and the experience, a distance, a freedom. This is why Zen monks laugh when they gain enlightenment, because the thing they were striving for, the thing they suffering for, was never lost. It was here the whole time. It was the looking itself. So the actual question isn't, who are you? It's, what has been here all along? You travel through life persuaded that you are the one making decisions, that you are the thinker of thoughts, the chooser of deeds, the one in charge. But let's look at that more closely. Take a simple decision right now. Elevate your hand. You did it. You felt like you opted to move. But what truly happened? Neuroscientists have been investigating this for years, and what they find is very disconcerting. The decision to move, it wasn't made at the instant you believed you chose to lift your hand. In reality, your brain had already started the process, milliseconds before you even were conscious of wanting to do it. This implies the conscious you, the voice in your head that says, "I just decided to do that," is actually late to the party. The action was already happening before the thought appeared. So who made the decision? The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer stated it bluntly. Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. In other words, you can act on a thought, but you don't get to select what thoughts arise. They just turn up, Try to forecast your next thought. You can't. It comes on its own, from nowhere. If you don't control your thoughts and you don't control the impulses underlying your acts, then what precisely is this you that feels it's in charge? And this is where things start to crack. The concept of control is comforting. It makes you feel like you have agency, like you're driving the ship. But if you actually look, you'll discover that life is happening spontaneously, without effort. Your heart beats on its own. Your breath flows in and out. Your body digests food. Your brain develops emotions, all without your participation. Even what you call your personality is a product of genetics, experiences, and conditioning you never picked. It's as if life is playing itself out, and the you in the center of it is just a character watching it all unfold, claiming credit for what was inevitable. This is what the great mystics and sages have been attempting to show us for millennia. The Taoists call it Wu Wei, the state of easy action. Not controlling, not forcing, just flowing with life as it unfolds. The Buddhists explain it as anatta, the realization of no self, the insight that the entity you thought was you is only a collection of impressions, continually changing. And yet, despite all, the delusion continues. Why? Because the mind cannot accept its own absence. The thought-based self needs to believe it's real. It needs to assert possession, to narrate, to justify its existence. But if you sit quietly, if you watch without interference, you'll begin to notice it. Thoughts arise, but they are not yours. Emotions arise, but they are not you. The body moves, breathes, acts, but there is no someone doing it. There is just life occurring, and when you genuinely see this, something transforms. The need to control falls away. Fear diminishes. Stress loosens its grasp. Because the one who is working so hard to hold everything together, they were never there to begin with. This is the moment people characterize as liberation. Not a mystical occurrence, not an out-of-body experience, but the simple, indisputable knowledge that you were never apart from life itself. That what you are is not the voice in your brain, not the name on your ID, nor the story you've been telling yourself. You are the witnessing of it all, the space in which everything appears and disappears, and that affects everything. It feels like there's a you sitting inside your head, gazing out through your eyes, like a pilot in a cockpit, managing everything, making decisions, navigating the environment. But have you ever paused to ask, where exactly is this you inside your body? For centuries, scientists, mystics, and philosophers have searched for it. Neuroscientists have mapped the brain, probing every neuronal pathway, every flicker of activity, seeking to pinpoint the core of you. The result? Nothing. No central command center, no tiny observer behind the eyes, no fixed identity lying somewhere in the folds of the brain. The ancient Buddhist teachings hinted to this long before modern science. They spoke of anatta, the belief that the self is an illusion, that the sensation of I is nothing more than a stream of ideas, emotions, and perceptions tied together by memory, creating the illusion of continuity. And yet, the illusion is strong. Try this. Close your eyes and envision a crimson apple. You can picture it in your mind's eye, right? But who precisely is watching it? Where is this internal observer? Is it in your brain? Your body? Is it even at a set location? If you keep searching, you'll start to see something peculiar. The more you hunt for this you, the more it fades into nothingness. Alan Watts once described this as the knower of experience. It's like peeling an onion. Each layer seems to hint to something deeper, but when you reach the center, there's nothing there. And yet, something is aware of this. This is where words start to fail because, while there is no thing that can be called you, there is still the indisputable presence of consciousness. The problem is, we confuse the contents of awareness, the thoughts, the emotions, the stories, for the one who is aware. But if you just watch, if you stay with it, a transformation happens. Thoughts come and go, but they are not you. Emotions rise and fall, but they are not you. Memories, wants, fears, they flow through awareness like clouds in the sky. So what remains? Just this, just presence, just raw, unfiltered being, without the need for a separate I to claim possession over it. This is what mystics and sages have pointed to for centuries. The knowledge that you are not in reality, you are reality. The whole universe seeing out through these eyes, experiencing itself in a transient human form. And when this is seen, life alters. The fight to define yourself, to cling on to an identity, to protect some frail sense of me starts to vanish. There is no longer a need to fight against life because the one who was striving never actually lived in the way you thought. You are not the character in the story. You are the screen on which the story plays. And when it clicks, even for a moment, something deep within relaxes. The weight of bearing a false identity, of attempting to control what was never yours to control, simply falls away. All that remains is this, vivid, living, free, the quiet witness. Something has been watching this whole time. Not as a person, not as an idea, not as an emotion, just watching. This presence has been there since before you could even name it, before you learnt words, before you were told who you are, before you started forming the identity you carry now. It was there when you were a youngster, peering out at the world with wide, unfiltered eyes. It was there throughout your happiest moments and your deepest suffering. And it is here, right now, watching these words appear in your head. But what is it? You might suppose it's the voice in your head, the narrator that remarks on your every move, the one who judges, plots, worries, and replays the past. But look closer. That voice isn't actually you. It talks to you. It debates itself. It even contradicts itself. It's like an overactive radio playing in the background, moving between different individuals, views, and feelings. One moment, it tells you that you're terrific. The next, it tells you that you're not enough. If that voice was genuinely you, it wouldn't turn against itself. It wouldn't be able to watch itself talk. But there is something deeper than the voice, the one who notices the voice. This is what ancient traditions have termed the silent witness, the ever-present consciousness that is always observing, never changing, never distracted by the content of your mind. Neuroscientists have studied this too, and what they found is alarming. The brain constantly generates thoughts, yet there is no single thinker. Instead, the mind is a collection of competing neuronal networks, firing and responding to stimuli. The idea of a solid self is simply that, an illusion formed by the brain stitching together experience into a coherent story. But the further you go, the more you see that there is no one inside doing the thinking. Eastern thinkers knew this long before science caught up. The Taoists spoke of the empty mind, a space where thoughts arise and vanish on their own. The Zen masters would question their students. Who were you before your parents were born? Not as a mystery, but as a direct invitation to delve beyond the mind's stories and into something far more profound. And here's where it gets fascinating. When you begin to watch your own thoughts with curiosity rather than identification, something unexpected happens. The thoughts lose their grasp. The feelings, once so overwhelming, pass like waves on the surface of a great ocean. Even the feeling of self, this long-held conviction that you are a fixed, separate entity, begins to soften. Then comes the epiphany that shakes everything. You have never been the voice in your head. You have never been the name, the identity, the fiction you tell yourself. You have always been this presence, this peaceful awareness that needs no name, no definition, no title. And the moment you stop chasing an identity, the moment you let go of the drive to define yourself, you become something much more than a person with a history. You become life itself, experiencing, unfolding, gliding easily through existence. Reality was never personal. It was never about you. And yet, here you are, awake, conscious, and free. There's something disconcerting about peering at a mirror for too long. At first, you only see yourself, your features, your expression. But after a while, something shifts. The familiarity evaporates, and you start to feel as though you're staring at a stranger. This moment, fleeting as it may be, shows something profound. The self you believe you are isn't as stable as it looks. Neuroscientists have been trying to locate the exact location of this you inside the brain. They've tracked emotions, memories, and cognitive functions down to neuronal firings. But what they haven't identified is a central command center, a place where the self sits and makes decisions. There is no CEO within your mind, no operator. Behind the controls, just a web of electrical impulses, firing in reaction to inputs. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus reportedly observed, "You cannot step into the same river twice. The water is continuously changing, always flowing." The same is true for the mind. The thoughts you had yesterday, the feelings you felt this morning, the identity you cling to. They are continuously evolving, and yet you still feel like you. Here's the paradox. If the self is continuously changing, then what is the part of you that stays the same? The part that's conscious of the change? The portion that notices your own ideas but is apart from them? This is where ancient knowledge and current neuroscience collide. Eastern traditions have long spoken about the silent observer, the awareness that monitors the mind, the presence that isn't caught up in the oscillations of thinking. Science, too, is now demonstrating that the brain operates on numerous levels, with one part generating the experience and another part merely seeing it. The error most individuals make is presuming the thoughts in their head are who they are. But if that were true, then when an idea disappears, would you disappear with it? Of course not. Something remains. Something watches. For thousands of years, Zen monks, yogis, and philosophers have sought to put this into words, yet language always falls short. They say, the observer is not the observed. The one watching your thoughts is not the same as the ideas themselves. The one aware of your feelings is not the emotions themselves. The actual you is not the voice in your head. It's the place in which the voice appears, and this alters everything. If you are not your thoughts, then whose suffering do you experience when you suffer? If you are not your emotions, then who is the one reacting to them? If you are not your identity, then what remains when it dissolves? This realization isn't just theoretical, it's something that can be actually experienced. The instant you stop connecting with the stories your mind makes, the moment you step back and see the observer, the illusion begins to disintegrate. And what remains is something so enormous, so empty, yet full, that it defies comprehension. So, if there's a self that watches, who's watching the watcher? Have you ever felt that peculiar moment of self-awareness? Share your ideas below. And if this video opened your mind even a little, subscribe for additional ideas that might just change how you perceive everything.